Now, Namibia and China, of course, with the president having returned to the country this afternoon, elevated their bilateral ties to a China-Namibia community with a shared future for the new era. NBC's acting chief of news and programming, Peter Denk, spoke to the CGTN rather, news anchor Jiao Yang and asked her how this new elevation can be interpreted.
Well, Peter, I mean, China does seem to like its labels for its partnerships, right? And I think after the meeting between the two presidents today, we can add another one to that for the relationship between China and Namibia, and that is a China-Namibia community with a shared future for mankind in the new era. So, I mean, it can sound a bit obscure, some of these labels, but what this really means is working together, addressing common challenges, mutual interdependence, and also cooperation. So, you know, you're asking about what this new elevation, this new high means, and I think we could best maybe think of this distinction between the 2018 and today as a difference between framework and substance. So in 2018, the elevation of ties, that was about establishing a framework for cooperation. But this visit, this week, that's about filling it with the substance of cooperation. So Beijing's statement, I think, signals a shift from diplomatic formality to actual operational depth. Now, if we look back, you know, since 2018, this relationship has been tested by a lot of global disruptions. We've had COVID, commodity volatility, there's been geopolitical conflicts and fragmentation, but the relationship has emerged intact from all of this. And now with the Namibian president's visit, China signaling that it is ready to move beyond the traditional aid and the extraction that defined practical relations into a more multidimensional one. And what that would entail would be industrial co-production, technology transfer, and, you know, importantly, what China says is a strategic alignment with Namibia's 6th National Development Plan. So this new high in relations, what is that? I think perhaps we could read that as a qualitative upgrade then. It's from a strategic partnership on paper to integrated cooperation. And I think we'll see that ripple across multiple sectors like renewable energy, in minerals, beneficiation, manufacturing. And, you know, these are sectors that directly address Namibia's structural unemployment, but also China's supply chain needs. It's about, you know, delivering the promises of 2018 and making this partnership more productive.
Excellent, excellent. So what we are saying is that despite the fact of all what we have said in terms of the challenges that have been experienced, China remained Namibia's largest trading partner with volumes that we know about. But also, do you then say that because of this new high, what you have explained, we are going to see even more increased trade between the two countries?
I imagine so. I mean, this is what the two presidents are here to talk about, right? And I think we can definitely expect further growth. But, Peter, I think what we should be watching for, though, isn't just the volume of the growth, but rather the composition of the growth. I mean, you know, we talked about this massive increase of trade between China and Namibia, and that's been very much in the news and talked about. But that's kind of very heavily driven by mineral exports and machinery imports, right? But what we're seeing stand out from this visit is China's zero tariff policy for African goods and how Namibia could leverage this. You know, it's also, I have to remind the audience, it's a unilateral tariff-free move. It doesn't require any reciprocal tariff reductions for Chinese goods from African countries. And what that means is that it creates a direct incentive for Namibian value-added products to enter the Chinese market. So we could be looking at processed minerals, agricultural processed goods, manufactured items. And something else to note here, President Nandi-Ndaitwah, she chose Guangzhou in southern China as her entry point. And that signals a strong commercial focus. So Guangzhou, for anyone who's not too familiar, it's positioned as a business and trade hub. And it also even has a center facilitating Sino-African trade and investment. And then on top of all that, there's the Namibian-China high-level trade and investment conference during this visit. And that's also there designed to convert all this diplomatic goodwill into real signed contracts. So, yes, in light of all of this, I think we will see trade likely rising. I think the biggest story here is what makes up this trade. Can Namibia seize on this and diversify its export basket to China? Just on this, related to this point, we know that Namibia is pushing for more local processing of its mineral resources and downstream cooperation, and that's also a key part of this visit. And it's fair to note that China has committed to supporting this industrialization. So, we could in the future see trade growth that's both bigger and also much more balanced.